So, I want to talk about avoidance and breaking a pattern of avoidance, and potentially even right off the bat, starting off with like, instead of thinking about breaking the pattern, we think about loving ourselves into wholeness and acceptance. Okay? Because that's really what we're doing when we're breaking the pattern of avoidance. And this is why in this video, I want to talk about what even is avoidance. And I want to bring love and compassion to the very useful benefit that avoidance has. And I want to open up space to understand what that benefit is and why we are using avoidance to meet a need that we have. And I want to give a multi-dimensional perspective of what is avoidance. Okay, because yes, there is the physical, tangible, surface level of there's a thing and we're avoiding it. Okay, that's just like probably the thinnest layer of what's going on here, because when we sink down into the emotional dimension and the spiritual dimension, when we open it up to the vastness of the interconnectedness of the all, your avoidance is playing a part in divine timing. Okay, your avoidance is serving a useful purpose. So let's start there with, if you're not taking action on a thing, then and you haven't yet, and now you're in this moment and kind of maybe beating up on yourself, or at least feeling some kind of way about I'm avoiding that, and just something, that's not joyful, maybe. If you're anywhere south of joyful on the frequency scale about your avoidance, let's just start with if you haven't done it yet, you weren't supposed to. Okay? What if there's a really good reason for the timing? Ooh, I'm having relief from this even in this moment. That's a good sign. Because I've been beating up on myself about my taxes, and I haven't done my taxes yet. And oh my God, Carly, you haven't done your taxes yet. And just the kind of the inner critic of girl, get your shit together. You haven't done your taxes yet? Oh my God, you're about to be late. Late. Oh my God, do you ever worry about being late? Do you know what an illusion time is? Do you know how only in the surface level that is? If you can get out into your spiritual dimension where time doesn't exist, and you get even a glimpse of how much of our energy we spend worrying about being late to things, it's just incredible. It just is when you think about how much time and energy and focus our human collective gives to the worry of being late. Wow. I just can't even, I've never thought about that before, as far as that's such a huge energy spend. Okay. And when you zoom out on your life, if you could gain access to an awareness that held every instant of focus that you've accumulated through your life, and we look at things that we worried about, that we distracted ourselves with, we made things a problem so that we could worry about it, so that, and this is where we're starting to get into what even is avoidance, so that we didn't have to look at ourselves. Okay? And again, I want to bring on purpose, bring it back into my focus, and bring it back into the direction of opening up this space for love and compassion for the part of you that can't look at yourself. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's right on time. You know? Like, you didn't do it yet because you weren't supposed to. And there is something specific about how your personal timing of when you turn towards the thing, when you look at yourself, when you face up to like what it is that you've been avoiding, when you face up to it, almost always it's so much easier, really, than you had like built it up into your mind, which is like the mental dimension of avoidance. I think avoidance it's a coping mechanism for being emotionally overwhelmed. Okay. When we are emotionally overwhelmed, like you can't, like it's bigger than you. You're drowning in it. It's eating you. It's consuming you. You are it. It is all you have space for is this emotional overwhelm. Or you can just pretend it doesn't exist, which is what avoidance is. Like you're living in a reality where you're like pretending that thing isn't happening. And like, who says that's wrong? Okay. Because this worry about lateness, like how do you know what timing would not only serve your own highest good, but the highest good of everybody else that's involved in your unfolding? Like earlier when I said this is giving me relief, like I was saying about how when you haven't done it yet, you weren't supposed to, there's something very specific about how this is having a mutual benefit. And I thought about the vision that I had was like my tax lady, because I go sit in her office for an hour and she does my taxes and we make small talk, chit chat. But like I grew up with her. Like she was actually born one day after me and we did 4-H together and her mom took us to the state fair kind of thing so we could show our outfits that we sewed, on and on and on. Like this was, in my childhood. And then we were at college together. We did our grad school together. And now she does my taxes and I go sit in her office for 1 hour every year for like the last like 5 years. Okay. And almost always I would be doing my taxes like in February. Like I just like to get it done and like be done with it. And this year I just like can't for the freaking life of me bring myself to even call and make an appointment. Like I can't even make an appointment. Like I'm just like, I have ample time. And every time I think about it, like you should call and make an appointment, I'm like, no, no, like even just this morning. And I spent a whole year in 2024 working on trust. And what I learned about trust, which I fully expected was going to be, and what I wanted was, how do I trust other people? Like I have trust issues or like whatever. And what I learned is that I have a self-trust issue. And that is like the root of what is actually the problem here. Like this is a root cause analysis. Like we're not interested in snipping off the symptoms. We want to like cure it at the root. Like all the way through the plant, down to the root, down to every single cell is healthy. And the thriving and blooming that's possible on a really healthy plant. And the ripple effect of that, and the ripple effect of each of us in general, and taking radical responsibility for the impact that we have on other people. And it comes back to this multidimensional perspective, because when we are in the physical and we are physically overwhelmed, for example, like when we're emotionally overwhelmed, meaning we're overwhelmed by the physical sensation of our body, you know? And I don't even necessarily call it discomfort, because even discomfort is a sensation. So again, to wrap as much love and compassion around this as possible is to honor the humanity that is at play in our physical dimension, where you can say discomfort's just a sensation, but it freaking hurts. Okay? And I don't like this, or I hate this. And like, that's an intense physical dimension. And when your physical dimension is that loud and powerful, it's difficult to be bigger than that. Not impossible, but difficult. Takes muscles to be bigger than that. And that is why personally I practice being bigger than my physical dimension when my physical dimension is nice and quiet and like just hanging out, you know, where like not much going on. Okay, that's a good time to like practice on purpose, exploring your other dimensions, exploring your mental dimension, exploring your physical dimension, even just with a conscious awareness, you know, bringing consciousness into your physical by exploring the sensations on purpose, wrapping them in your conscious awareness on purpose that you're having. And so all of this, though, to come back to avoidance and what we said about like really the work is about expanding our wholeness and our acceptance of ourselves. It's like when we're avoiding the way we feel about something. And again, on the surface of it, it might look like you're avoiding the task, you know, but again, when I take it out into the spiritual dimension, all of this dissolves because divine timing, because like faith in I am always right on time, you know, like always. And so like, and I'm basing that on how many times I've noticed that like I go sit myself right in the right spot at the right time, you know, like I put myself on purpose because it feels like the right thing to do. I put myself into the path of everything that I want, you know, like I've watched it happen. Like I'm right on time. Everything is always working out for me. I'm right on time. And so like, I feel like I know that, like in a way where I still question, but the evidence just keeps stacking up. And it's like, you can question as much as you want, as long as it's fun for you, or if you like to frustrate yourself. Well, I don't care what you do, honestly, but you get to choose, you know, you have a choice about how much love and compassion are you willing to grant to yourself. And I just, again, like sometimes it's so hard because when we are in pain, it brings out other wounds. It's like that pain frequency aggravates all of it at once. So like the slippery slope into the pits of, you know, just like speaking from personal experience, like, I mean, just within these last couple of days, like going to the pits of like my own self-dislike and wishing I were different and like wanting to be different, wanting to be bigger, wanting to be more, wanting to be better, wanting to be different than how I am right now, because how I am right now is not good enough, is just not enough, and it's not this enough, and it's not this enough, and just like, oh man, it rips apart your heart to dislike yourself. And when we look inward, when we relate to our own truth, you know, like on one level, like in my taxes example, on one level, I know it's right to not have done it yet, because I know that there's a larger unfolding happening here that I don't understand. I don't really need to understand. Like, my intuition gave me an answer. And do I trust it or not? And is that avoidance in the context of like the cultural judgment of like avoidance is a bad thing? That like you're doing a bad thing if you're doing an avoid? Like that there's a right way and that you're not doing it. And that kind of judgment, that kind of criticism, I'm not even going to say that it's wrong. Okay? That's self-doubt, like of that you're doing it wrong. Like, that's painful. And the thing about pain is that it sparks, it initiates growth. You know, when your ass is on the fire, you will move. So how hot does the fire have to get? And again, I want to make it so clear that from my felt perspective, there is no right or wrong. That like even when we are emotionally overwhelmed, even when we meet up with, have to hold, we come to a moment where there is no other option but to hold the emotional overwhelm and the pain and the discomfort, like that's where we are. And to even just have the thought that this is temporary. This is temporary, and maybe there's a reason. And that those can be like a breath of, it's okay. It's okay. You know, like breathe. You're alive. I know this sensation is intense. I know that, you know, coming into this place, it feels like you aren't big enough. And, you know, that's again going back out to the spiritual dimension to be able to say that maybe you aren't. Maybe you aren't. And maybe that's the truth that's hard to face. Like, I'm not big enough for this task that I'm faced with, and so I'm avoiding it. I'm not ready. You know? And like the pain of that, of like, I'm not big enough, I'm not enough, like that's a very aggravating, that's like a core wound for collective consciousness, is I'm not enough. And that's a really hard weight that humans carry on their shoulders. And when you are able to come out to the spiritual dimension, into the interconnectedness of the all, into the eternal expansion of the universe, it is literally our gift to the universe. It's literally our gift to God to face that feeling of I'm not enough. Because in this moment, you know, the task, the next step that's presenting itself, like it's the next step up. And so when you have that feeling of like, this is harder than I can hold, that's because that's true. And that's okay. That's okay, because you are capable of growth. You're capable of learning. You are so intelligent, and you are so much more resilient and resourceful than you give yourself credit for. And the step up, the I'm not big enough for this yet being a very helpful little boost of like, that's just right now. And that's temporary. And coming out of avoidance can be a lot about making peace with the growth process that it is to see something that you have to do that is outside your comfort zone. You're gonna have to grow to face that, to do it, to come more into harmony with who you are right now. You're going to have to get out of the comfort zone. And that means that you're in the discomfort zone. And it comes back to, on purpose, when our physical dimension is not loud or in pain, when we do feel relatively good, is the best time to practice on purpose, exploring the techniques for holding discomfort in our body. And this is something that I go into a lot in my private community, Embodying Authenticity, where we specifically come back over and over and over again to the concept of how to expand your comfort zone on purpose. And avoidance is a lot about being not ready to get out of your comfort zone. And again, when you zoom out to the spiritual dimension, should you have gotten out of your comfort zone already? No. Good job being right on time, and good job staying there as long as you did, because that was right where you were supposed to be. That was the path of least resistance. That was the path of greatest joy. Okay. And that's a hard pill to swallow when you're like, there wasn't much joy on that path. You're like, what the fuck she's talking about? Like, I don't get it. But the other paths, the other contenders of like how it could have gone, would have had less joy than the path you walked. And so, like, that's a story. That's just a way of looking at it. Doesn't have to be true, but it makes me feel more at peace that like it went as best as it could. Okay. Like it was as good as it could have been. And to just let yourself go there sometimes, of like to that level of peace of like there's nothing in the past to argue with. There's nothing in the past to judge as foolish or regretful. Like every single bit of it is playing its part in who you are right now today. Every single bit of it. And if we can be that at peace, we are no longer spending that chunk of our very precious energy on anything to do with fighting with the past or fighting with what is in this moment as a result of the past. Like that level of peacefulness and that conservation of energy that we used to put into the fight, we get that energy back. And then what do you do with it? What do you want to feel? Because what you feel is what you emanate. So what kind of ripple effect do you want to make out into collective consciousness? Like we're all swimming in the same energetic soup, and your energy matters so much. Your emanation matters so much. What do you want it to be? And when you figure out what you want to emanate, what you want to ripple for other people, that's what you give to yourself. Because you ripple what you are. And so you be that. And you give it to everyone in that process. It is such a beautiful journey to deepen into your authentic self by first understanding what even is that, and how even do you know your inner truth? Like where do you even start? And owning authenticity is that process of becoming aware of your authentic self as opposed to your unconscious program, right? And when we deepen into embodying our authenticity, it's really about shifting gears into living as that person, right? The taking action part, the bringing it down into the cells of your body so that that's how you show up in a moment. No preparation needed. You just show up because you are that, right? And you give what you are because you built what you are. You poured in there on purpose. And these little micro moments of feeling 1% better, it is such a powerful concept because 1% is so much bigger than you think it is. Okay. And you can do it again in 5 minutes. You could do it again in 5 seconds. Like, you can do it again, do it again, do it again. But these little shifts of leaning towards, of finding the light of how do you feel better? How do you spend less energy on things that don't feel good? How do you conserve that energy so that you can, on purpose, with your will, spend it in ways that amplify your own energy so that your ripple effect is as big and coherent and beautiful as you want it to be? You know, there is no top end to how good you can feel. I would love to hear your thoughts and your reactions in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, take a second and give it a like. All of these are very, very helpful and valuable to me. I so appreciate you taking the time to be here. And until next time, take really, really good care of the precious one that is you, and so will I.